Mr. Harris here, and welcome to a new video. In this video, we're going to talk about what are compounds and mixtures. So compounds, they are atoms of two or more elements, and the key word here is chemically joined together or chemically combined together. That is the key word, chemically. That means there has been a chemical reaction that has occurred between two or more elements. So chemical reaction between two or more elements. For example, we have water. Water here is a compound, and I'm sure you're very familiar with the chemical formula of water. I've been hearing all of you say it all the time, H2O. Now let's look at here. This is a water molecule. You can see that there are 5 water molecules here. Okay, and each of this water molecule, it consists of one oxygen atom. Okay, this is the oxygen atom. I'll put an O for that. These reddish, pinkish, or orangish color, that's oxygen, and it has 2 hydrogen atoms, which are these silvery sort of color or grayish color. And in each water molecule, you'll see that there are 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. And if you look at the H2O that I wrote here, maybe I'll use the same colors, H2. Remember, there were 2 hydrogen atoms that you see and 1 oxygen atom, and it perfectly links up with what we're talking about here. And the thing about this is they are hydrogen and oxygen, they were chemically combined together. How were they chemically combined? So at the back they didn't show it, I'll write it here. So basically, hydrogen and oxygen, they have reacted together. These two are elements. Now later on we'll learn why is it H2, why am I not writing just H, or why am I not writing just O. But the point is that both of these two elements, they combine together chemically to form water. Okay. Another example we have is carbon dioxide. Now carbon dioxide, you can see that here, they have just shown 3 carbon dioxide molecules. Of course, there are like billions or millions of molecules like that, but just for this video's sake, they've just shown you 3. And you can also here list out the carbon and oxygen atoms. So we know carbon dioxide is CO2. So the one in the middle here, this is the carbon atom. There is 1 carbon atom, and there are 2 carbon atoms for each molecule. Now again, carbon dioxide, it is also a compound, and how is it formed? Yes, it is formed based on 2 elements. Which 2 elements? Obviously here we have carbon and also oxygen being combined together to form carbon dioxide. When I said combined together, I should actually say chemically combined together. So they have undergone a chemical reaction. That is the definition of a compound. So compounds, on the other hand, they could be broken down into their constituent elements by chemical methods. Now, what does that mean? So just like, remember I drew, or you saw H2O? Now I can also do the reverse process of this. So from H2O, from the compound, maybe I'll write it down here, this is the compound. I could do the reverse process and get back my elements. My elements, what were the 2 elements that were present here? Of course, I had hydrogen and oxygen. And oxygen. And these 2, again, these 2 were my elements. These 2 were my elements. Now, constituent, what does that mean, constituent? It means that the same or their own elements here. So if from H2O, obviously, what 2 elements are present there? Obviously, there is hydrogen and oxygen. Let me give another example that we just saw, carbon dioxide. This is the compound. What are its constituent elements? Meaning which one are the same kind of element? Obviously, this would be carbon and oxygen. So these 2 are the elements. So how can we break it down? How can we break down or how can we split the compound into elements? And there's a process called electrolysis. We can use electricity to break it down. So this word electrolysis, the electro, it means electricity. Electricity, there's no, yeah. Lysis, it means to break down something. So to break down. So what are you breaking down? In this process, you're breaking down the compound using electricity to form elements. So that's the meaning of electrolysis. So here you can see water can be broken down into hydrogen and oxygen by passing electricity. And this process is called electrolysis. So you get from the compound, you could get the elements, the constituent elements related to that compound. So compounds are substances composed of two or more elements that are chemically combined together. Chemically. So I'll write it once more for you. That means they've undergone a chemical reaction. And how do you know there's a chemical reaction that has undergone? Basically, when you form a new substance. And usually burning or heating is an indicator that a chemical reaction is occurring. Just a small tip for you. So here, water is obviously this. Is it an element or a compound? It is a compound. Water is a compound. It can be broken down into which two elements can it be broken down into by electrolysis? Hydrogen and oxygen, of course. Okay, water here was H2O. Moving on. So do the compounds and the elements, the constituent elements, do they have the same properties? So let's see here. There are two elements that you see. One is iron. Iron has the atomic symbol of F. Sulfur has the atomic symbol of S here. Sulfur is a nonmetal, iron is a metal. And after heating, now here, do you see the word heating? Now this means that there is a chemical reaction that has occurred. Now, there you have two or more elements. You can see there's one element, two or more elements that have undergone a chemical reaction. They're chemically combined and that will form a compound. Now here you have iron 2 sulfide. This is FeS if you're interested to write the chemical formula. You notice, first thing you notice that they all have different colors. Also, when you'll do some certain properties, some certain experiments on it, only the iron, which is obviously the metal, will be attracted by the magnet. It'll be attracted by the magnet. This is the metal. It'll be attracted by the magnet. Sulfur, because it's a nonmetal, it's not attracted by the magnet. We know that because nonmetals, they don't have this property. They're not gonna be attracted by it. Also, the compound, it's not gonna be attracted by the magnet. On the other hand, from this, we can understand that compounds, they will not have the same properties as its elements. Like here, for example, just by this magnet example, the compound was not attracted by magnet. So that means it does not really have the same properties as iron. But you can say, sir, then maybe it has the same property as sulfur because even this is not attracted by the magnet. But if you keep on doing some more experiments, you'll realize that iron 2 sulfide, the compound here, it has its own properties. Has its own properties which are different from iron and sulfur. Okay? So the properties of a compound would be or are different from its constituent elements. How about mixtures? Mixtures, on the other hand, is basically just taking an iron metal and a sulfur nonmetal and you're mixing them together. The keyword is there is no chemical reaction being occurred here. There's no chemical reaction. So they're not chemically combined together. Now this time we're going to do the same experiment. You take a magnet and you try to place it on top of the mixture. Notice this is called a mixture. And when you take the magnet on top of it, you'll notice that the metal, which is the iron, will be attracted towards the magnet. Now, because of this, what does this mean? This means that the properties of a mixture is really, really similar to that of the constituent element. Basically, it's still, you can separate the original element out. This is the original element, and you can see the sulfur is at the bottom here. So technically, a mixture is kind of still the same. You can still revert back to the original without doing any chemical process. So here, there is no chemical process undergone. You're just doing a physical process where you're just separating it with a magnet. So mixtures, they're formed when two or more substances mix together without forming anything new, without the formation of the new substance. And as I said, they're not chemically joined together. There's no chemical reaction. So some examples of mixtures are air. In air, you have nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide, water vapor, noble gases. You learned this in Form 2. But here I want to tell you something. If you notice, nitrogen is an element. Oxygen is an element. Why is it an element? You can find them in the periodic table. If you can find this in the periodic table, that's definitely an element. Now, how about carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide, we just learned it. It is CO2. Now, is CO2 an element? No, it's a combination of two elements chemically joined together, right? So this is a compound. How about a water vapor? Water vapor, we also just learned it. It's just water in gaseous state, H2O. Again, this is also two elements chemically combined together. This is also a compound. And noble gases, we'll leave that for now. We learned that in group 0, they're all elements there, but look at this. Air is a mixture of both elements and compounds. Elements, I should write plus, I'll write elements and compounds. So the mixture could either be a mixture of element and compounds. It could also be a mixture of elements, of different elements together, or it could be a mixture of different compounds together. Or it even could be, like in this example for air, it even could be a mixture of both elements and compounds combined together. Now later on we'll see some examples of this, don't worry. So a mixture is formed when two or more substances mix with each other without, remember, it should be without forming a new substance. The substances in the mixture are not chemically joined together. All right, so I'll wrap up this video over here. Compounds, they are chemically combined together. Two or more elements chemically combined together. Mixtures, it could be two or more elements, two or more compounds, or even two or more elements and two or more compounds not chemically combined together. Okay, so that's the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.